Okay, this video is fluoride part 4. We're going to go through some more issues with accumulating it, toxicity, how to avoid it. Okay, so first of all, this paper comes from Ireland, and in Ireland they drink a lot of tea. Also in Ireland they have mandatory water fluoridation, which one doctor, Dr. Russell Blaylock, claims that that was sort of pressured on the Irish by the British. Anyways, the Republic of Ireland is the only European country, according to this paper, at this time, this is 2016, with mandatory national legislation requiring fluoridated water. They also drink tons of tea, and tea has a tendency to concentrate F-. So, according to this paper, the cultural habit of tea drinking indicates that the population could easily exceed what are thought to be toxic F- levels. So I'd be careful about that. For some reason, a lot of people think tea is such a great thing. I got family members that think tea is a great thing. You know, they never read anything about it. They just do it because they like the commercial, okay, which I think is quite stupid. Okay, some more thoughts on F-. I already showed you the diagrams. These are just a little bit more of a summary of it. It inhibits glycolysis, Krebs cycle. The specific enzymes are listed. Electron transport. Can also damage DNA, substituting for hydrogen. It'll inhibit DNA. It inhibits DNA synthesis. It can block the effects of the enzyme thymidylate synthase. That's not good. Can lead to the DNA being damaged and incorporating uracil, which it's not supposed to do. It has a disruptive effect on calcium metabolism, and this can lead to deossification of bones, make osteoporosis worse. But it paradoxically causes increased calcification of the ligaments. You know, this common disease called DIS, diffuse idiopathic skeletal hyperostosis. I'll talk more about it later, but that's really sort of calcifications of the anterior longitudinal ligament of the spine. Let's see here. We talked about it affecting hydroxylation of proline and collagen, collagen being the glue of the body, the most common protein in the body. We talked about it being synergistically made worse by aluminum. Let's see, let me get something new in here. Has a negative effect on people. Tends to make them kind of docile, lethargic, lazy, apathetic, a little bit stupider, lowering their IQ. It has been associated in animal studies with pituitary atrophy. The hormonal system of the body is run, initially from the pituitary. Has been associated with calcifications in the pineal gland, and that's thought potentially related to increased incidence of premature puberty, potentially related to decreased melatonin production with aging. So it's all not good. We talked about damaging the hippocampus, memory center of the brain. In pregnant animals, it's thought to increase the risk that the offspring will be hyperactive, which sounds similar to ADHD. This lady who did tons of research on it and showed these negative effects in animals, she got fired from her job and because they didn't want her studying that. We talked about the association with Down syndrome. F- accelerates aging. We talked about its effect on the pineal gland, thought to be associated with premature puberty. Pituitary atrophy is also associated with it. We talked about all this collagen stuff. Increased calcifications in arteries. All these things are associated with aging. Let's see. So it's associated with increased risk of cancer. This guy, Yamuyanis, hard to pronounce his name, but he wrote an entire book about how he did research with this other guy, Dean Burke. They claim that F- causes more human cancer death than any other specific chemical. They felt that in demographically matched populations, it consistently showed a 10% increased risk of cancer death. That's not cancer diagnosis. Cancer diagnosis is a fuzzy thing because, how do you define cancer? How much screening are you doing in the area? But cancer death is a much more precise number, and it was felt that it was associated with a 10% increased risk of cancer death. And they spent a lot of time working on that research. Here's just another paper showing increased cancer growth in mice. It has a negative effect on the immune system, even when the levels are as low as just 1 part per million in the water. That's on the low side. They're now often putting it in salt, so be careful if you're adding salt if it's got F- in it. They also are adding it to some milks to, make sure it's available to kids. Soy will sometimes concentrate it. Here's an example of a paper about that. Another paper showing the same thing of it being concentrated in soy. Here's just kind of a nice painting of the city. This painting is called Reflections on the Thames by John Atkinson Grimshaw. And the reason this paper, what it reminds me of, is a lot of people that always say, oh, we want city water, we want city water, we want city water. Well, city water increases the likelihood it's going to have F- in it, geniuses. You're better off with well water that doesn't have F- in it. You can remove F- with distillation. You can remove F- with reverse osmosis filtration. Toothpaste and mouthwash can contain a lot of it, especially toothpaste. The manufacturer knows it's toxic. They say only use a pea-sized amount and don't swallow it. If accidentally swallowed, call poison control. Come on. There's been people who, kids who've died from an F- treatment of their teeth when they accidentally swallowed it. We talked about if you brush over your amalgams with it, it's thought to increase the release of Hg from the amalgams. It's transdermally absorbed too, so if you have to use F- water, my advice would be bathe less often and do it spend less time in that shower. Again, I mentioned I never met a smart swimmer in my life, and I went to Stanford where they got a lot of swimmers. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've met a lot of really, really smart runners, but I haven't met any really smart swimmers, and for what that's worth. Okay, cookware with Teflon can get F- into your food. If it's transdermally absorbed, and if you have it in your home, your washing machine and your clothes will get it on your clothes, and that'll be transdermally absorbed in part. Let's see. We talked about plants having a protective effect. Here's a bunch of references. Like if you want to read more, I included the papers in my earlier talks, and here's a whole bunch of references on it if you're interested in reading about it in more detail. And here's a couple more of them. So there's a lot has been written about it. So anyways, hope that's helpful.